Greetings, everyone. It's so excited to have you back as we bring back a whole new season of the Men's Den, and I'm excited to have our first guest on the Men's Den, brother from another mother. We met 2 or 3 years ago and have just formed a really amazing, powerful relationship of brotherhood. And so I'm excited to have him here to talk about all that he's doing, all that he does as a businessman, as a father, as a husband, and so much more, because those are all the things we get into at the Men's Den. Honored to have my guest for this episode of the Men's Den, Dr. Anthony Estreet. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So looking forward to the conversation, looking forward to talking about all the things, but really looking forward to talking about the collaborations and the ways that we are out here elevating the voice and stories of Black men, but really Black men in social work.
Yeah, definitely. And so just thinking about one for the people, right? This is, our coming back. We haven't actually released a Men's Den episode in a while, so excited to have you be the reason that we are pushing forward and bringing everything back with the Men's Den. And so one, just tell the people a little bit about like who you are and what you do.
So I am Dr. Anthony Estreet. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the National Association of Social Workers. We are the largest professional membership association for social workers in the US, but realistically in the world. We engage in ongoing policy and advocacy around workforce, but also the communities and families that social workers serve. And really the idea of being a social worker makes me excited. I wake up every day doing this work and really figuring out how we can improve the profession, but really the communities that we serve. And so that is the one aspect, my main aspect, right? At the same time, I'm also a husband, a father, a brother, a son, and I exist in a world that we have to continue to create advocacy in, but also advocacy around things that impact me directly in the communities that I'm a part of.
Yeah, I really appreciate you highlighting all of that. And then I'm thinking about you being a social worker. And I know for myself, growing up, social worker wasn't a title or a position I associated with men.
Right.
How did you find your way to social work? Because we live in a space where that's seen sometimes as a women's profession.
Yeah, so my path towards social work wasn't traditional. So my undergrad is actually in psychology. Shout out to Bowie State University.
HBCUs in the building.
HBCUs in the building. The thing about it is when I was at Bowie State, I met an amazing social worker who is a friend, frat brother, and mentor still to this day, named Mike Green. Mike Green, at that time, I was telling him really about my desire to go and be a psychologist. And at that time, in order to be a psychologist, you had to go get your PhD, which was another 5 years. And I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in that time because I was just coming up on finishing undergrad. And I was like, yo, I am over with school. I am done. But you never know, the people that you meet. And so when I met Mike Green, like we literally sat down on the yard, on a bench, just talking about different things you could do in the field, and that's when he put me on to social work. And so when I started looking into it and researching it, I found that as a social worker, you can go to grad school in 2 years, get your MSW, but then you can also start opening your own private practice. You can start seeing clients. All the things that I wanted to do as a psychologist, I could do as a social worker. And so I applied to Virginia Commonwealth University, got accepted, became an MSW, and kind of the rest is history. I think the unique thing about it is it took another Black male social worker to show me about being a Black male social worker, right? And I think part of, these conversations around Black men in social work, one, we need to have a lot more frequently. Two, we need to ensure that as we're growing the profession, we're also making sure that we are paying particular focus to those areas where we are lacking, and having Black men in social work enter the profession is one that we need to focus on, grow, and make sure that we're also nurturing the space that they're coming into.
I like that. I think about that, especially that last piece, nurture the space they're coming into, because we need so many more, right? I think sometimes there's this conversation that's happening, got to go to college and, all these things. Just like, we need 1 million more Black men in every profession. There's no profession where we're like over-indexed. Right. And so we need to show the different pathways and different places that Black men can show up. And I appreciate you for doing that as the CEO and like a face. Like I know there's campuses you go to and spaces and brothers
Yeah.
are happy to
Yeah.
see you
Yeah.
because they see themselves as a social worker.
Yeah, I think that, well, one, I'm always grateful for the spaces that I'm able to occupy and be a part of. I think, in this role, it's super humbling to be able to impact people that way, right? At the same time, I do think that it's also part of my responsibility to make sure that we're creating pathways, but also showing young Black men what they can be and what they can come into within the profession, right? I think oftentimes the social work profession gets a bad rap in terms of being, the profession that takes away babies, the profession that you're not going to make money in, right? And I think that we have to, one, change those narratives to say that you can actually be whatever you want in the field of social work, because the field is very vast and open to be able to engage in different sectors of whether it's child welfare all the way to AI and technology. I think the other part of it too is, in terms of earning potential, I think people have to be able to go out and negotiate for the things that they want to. I think having that voice to be able to impact and usher young Black men into social work is certainly a privilege. I think the other part of it is really thinking through, like, as we are the largest providers of behavioral health services in the US, how do we ensure that, we're in a mental health crisis and a mental health workforce shortage time period? How do we make sure that we're continuing to replenish the ranks of people that are able to work in the community, but also understand from a cultural lens the things that are impacting us on that mental health continuum?
Mental health continuum. Talk to me about that. Like that's where I wanted to go next, because I think, people don't think about it as a continuum, or like even when we talk about social emotional development, it's a process. It's also a continuum. Like you learn some first, second, third, just like mathematics or reading. Like you improve each year. You work on skills to get better. So tell us about this mental health continuum.
Yeah, so the mental health continuum, it really does kind of shift the narrative around how people visualize and also stigmatize mental health, right? On the one hand, we see a lot of content and news articles about people that are experiencing mental health crises, right? They had to be hospitalized, or they're engaged in some way or another where they have to be able to seek treatment. The mental health continuum really allows for us to look at mental health on a continuum, whereas some days you may be on the one side of the continuum where everything is working, your life is going well, you're happy, you're functioning, and you're taking care of yourself and engaging in mental health wellness. On the other end is really that acute crisis continuum where people are typically thinking about and operating from, whereas you may either need to get hospitalized or go into outpatient mental health treatment, right? So we're all existing on that continuum, and the more that we see it as a continuum, the more we're able to decrease the amount of stigma that people have, because we all experience mental health, right? Sometimes it's mental health wellness, sometimes it's mental health crisis, and we have the language for it. So joy, all those things, they elicit feelings, but also, right, if I am a person that is experiencing anxiety or a panic attack, then we also have to think about how do we address that.
Some powerful stuff here. You're dropping all the gems. And so that leads me to, with that work, and then you do a lot of advocacy, right? You're on Capitol Hill. You're interacting with governors, senators, state reps, Congress, everything. What does the advocacy aspect of what you do look like, and what should we be thinking about paying attention to?
Yeah, so I think right now advocacy is top of the priority. We're seeing a whole lot of different shifts and changes, especially from the federal landscape around executive orders. We just saw the rollback of the Voting Rights Act, and so it really is thinking about what is the role of social workers in politics, and how do we get more social workers and the communities that we serve involved and engaged. And so from an advocacy standpoint, it's one, making sure that we're providing education to our communities around issues that are impacting them directly, but also making sure that social workers are engaging the community around voter education, voter registration, and really understanding that voting is social work, right? The way that we are engaging in voting is social work. And so for me, the advocacy lens is really around how do we look at it from what are those things that are going to impact the communities and how are they understanding it, but also how do we take the voice of the communities and make sure that we're also advocating for it on Capitol Hill. So it's this bidirectional relationship in terms of advocacy and political action that social workers are inherently engaged in, and we have to start, I mean, I say all the time, like right now with all the things going on with this administration and in the world, social workers are uniquely equipped to be able to deal with that and to carry those messages and that change forward.
Yeah, the world's a little crazy right now.
Just a little bit,
I think it's always crazy, but there's a lot going on that's not for today's show.
I'm gonna flip the script a little bit and because we met 2 or 3 years ago, and it was really just kind of connection that came together really nicely. So I want to hear from you because you're the founder CEO of the Black Men Can, right? And there's a lot of places where we have synergy in terms of Black men in social work, the Black Men Can. And so tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up here and how did we end up just rocking together?
So I think that's an awesome question. Thank you. There's a few things there. So one, I had always had a job and decided to take this leap of faith with the Black Men Can. And so really, like you could say, like I feel like sometimes my official start date was January 1st, 2024. It's like my start date. Like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, and I say that because that leads into that May. So May 1st, May Day, there was the on Capitol Hill. There was the conversation with you and other CEOs of mental health organizations. And I saw that, I was like, man, I gotta be here. And so made my way down to builds with all of you, but then like you just kind of get energy from everybody. Like, oh, this guy, we're gonna be best friends. And so with that, from there, like I said, we got to build and talk more. Came down to the office and met with you, share a little more. Like, he's Brandon Frame, Black Men Can, and really that became part of it because I knew mental health. One thing that's been special about the Black Men Can is that I started in 2010. And what we were talking about in 2010, mental health wasn't even like the conversation that it is now in 2010. So that's just one thing. But also I was 21, 22 years old. So therefore, the Black Men Can has also grown. So in 2010, it's just kids, boys. How are we impacting the youth? And then I've gotten older. My friends have gotten older. All the guys, we all the same age doing this. And now everybody's fathers and husbands. And so like it has grown. And so I know mental health was something that we need to focus on and prioritize as an organization. And then there was an opportunity to do that with you and the work that you're doing outside of NASW, but also with it. And we could be, really great partners in terms of being able to create content, support programming, have wonderful and informative conversations about Black men and boys, and then just the mental health as a whole.
I think that is, I think, just the way that our friendship has developed over time has created just some amazing conversations, which is how this idea around highlighting and elevating Black men in social work came about. Like we've always talked about elevating Black men in social work, but being creative and using, podcasts and social media and things like that to elevate it. Because what we're really doing is creating a pathway or opportunity for Black men to see what other Black men do in social work, right? As we think about the various, how people grow, like the STEM sciences or the STEMs, right? They start very early on, right? And so for me, it's really thinking about, one, how do we get the story out about Black men in social work? And two, how do we start earlier in that recruiting process to let people know what social workers do? Because again, as the largest providers of behavioral health, 9 out of 10 times, people have come in contact with a social worker in general, right? We carry a lot of different titles, so it may not necessarily always be social worker, which, I have my own ideas about how do we professionally brand ourselves. But I do think that how do we have these conversations earlier in high school and maybe even middle school around what social work looks like and what kind of career paths and opportunities are available to, young Black men and Black youth that want to pursue this field and genuinely have a desire to help the community, help out others, and engage in this work.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and it makes me think. Like, just hearing from you and hearing your journey, in between both our networks, I feel like there's there's really big opportunity for us to really think about really pushing that forward. And I think, I'm so honored to have you here today, but I think we should have a series of episodes, right, where we're really chronicling the stories of Black men in social work in all the different spaces, from politics to community organizing and dealing with violence in the community. There's companies out there that are doing really amazing work, highlighting or promoting and supporting mental health and health disparities. I think that point of collaboration, I think that is something we really need to, embark upon.
I mean, that sounds super exciting. I get excited about telling the story of Black men in social work. I get excited about telling my own journey and experience in social work. And so creating a series or creating an opportunity to share and elevate the work that some of my amazing colleagues are doing and just the work that we're doing at NASW would be outstanding.
Yeah, I think so. I think we just did. We just said we're gonna do it. So
let's make it happen.
Now we got to make it happen. But simultaneously, I also just appreciate you coming to take the time to be on the Men's Den. And I also thank you for the brotherhood that we've just been able to build over the last few years. And now I'm beyond excited to see how we're going to chronicle and tell the stories of Black men in social work.
No, I appreciate coming out here and always coming out and answering the call, right? I think that this is going to be an amazing opportunity to share that story, but always looking forward to see what's next with the Black Man Can, but always figuring out how we can continue to collaborate and build together.
Absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
All right.